Hello, happy Friday. Hello. Welcome, everyone. I am Chrystelle Robinson Tiedemann. I am the host of the Love and Meaning podcast, where we discuss everything related to living a happiness forward life and creating the meaning in your life. And this is Friday Night Live Dive. Every Friday, I go live and we dive deep into the podcast topics. Today, we have an exciting session coming up. Welcome. Say hello as you come in, please. I'd love to know who's here. And let me know what it is that you are celebrating for the week. Okay? Welcome. I have my phone open over here. And that is just in case sometimes the chat doesn't sync. And so I have something to know that your questions and comments are coming in. I have my notes down here, so excuse me if I'm looking up and down. But again, say hello as you come in and let me know what it is that you're celebrating for the week. It is Friday. We got the flashy Friday Night Live Dive lights. And I think I'm going to... Let's make our lights. Let's get moody. How's that? I'm feeling a little blue and red today. Let's get moody with our lights today. So I am celebrating a continuation of last week because if you remember, what I was celebrating last week was working out for pretty much the whole week. And I did it again. I'm a freaking champion. So your girl is back. I really think I'm back in the flow now. Like, I took some serious time off from working out, not for any good reasons, but I feel like I'm back. I've worked out every day this week and I'm rocking it and feeling good and I'm feeling strong. So I am celebrating feeling in tune with my body, giving my body what it needs. I know that I flow and function best with movement, and not just movement. Like, I like weights. Like, I like challenging myself, like making myself sweat, especially like first thing in the morning. I've been drinking less coffee, so there's an immediate benefit for me. When I am working out, I don't need as much caffeine. So this projector is taking care of herself and feeling very proud. So what are you celebrating this week? Let me know as you come in. And I have a couple of announcements to make before we get into the topic today, which is great. We'll give people time to hop on. But some exciting stuff. When I had announced about a month back, I think it was, the official launching of Coaching with Cree, my coaching, I had some really awesome specialty pricing going on. That specialty pricing is still available, but it is coming to a close. I announced it on my Instagram a couple days ago that there was 1 week left. So the pricing will be going to regular full rate pricing as of Tuesday. So if you were on the fence, if you were thinking about it, or this is the first time you're hearing about it, this is your chance to jump in on it. I would love for you to be able to get that deal. But as of Tuesday, those debut prices, those debut packages will be coming to a close. I want to give a big thank you and a welcome to all of those that jumped in and took advantage of that and that have entered my world. It is so wonderful to have you here. And I can't wait for everything that we're growing into. And for those who might have heard this for the first time, come on down. It's really fun over here. So yeah, the link is in the show notes. The link is in my bio on my Instagram, Coaching with Cree, at Coaching with Cree, the little @ sign. And here on my YouTube, it's at Coaching with Cree as well, or you can search by my name, Chrystelle Robinson Tiedemann. So the link is in the show notes if you want to go and check that out. The 2 ways that you can work with me is by doing a human design reading and by one-on-one coaching. So again, those preliminary debut coaching prices, packages will be ending as of Tuesday. So if you wanted to catch that, this is the time. The podcast, Love and Meaning. I am here at the nail salon. Yes. Is that your celebration for the week? Getting your nails done? I'm all about it. I love this milky white, by the way. I've gotten so many compliments on this color. Mom is here and at the nail salon. Lovely. So some more just housekeeping stuff. The podcast is available every Monday. New episodes drop at 8 a.m. EST on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, and right here on my YouTube page. And then every Friday, I come here live and we dive deep into the topics. It's all about embodiment on our Friday Live. It's all about how can we really bring this into our everyday life practice. This is a great opportunity for you to ask questions. This is a great opportunity for you to get clarification or bring it into your own life. So if you are unable to, sorry about that, make it live, you can ask your questions right on the platforms of the podcast. Scroll down to the bottom if you're on Apple Podcasts or if you're on Spotify. Scroll down to the bottom and there is a Q&A section. You can type your questions in. You can voice record your questions even. And then if you're watching on YouTube, just write your questions right into the comment section of the YouTube. Okay. So coaching price is coming to a close on Tuesday. Jump in. Link is in the show notes. All right. Let's get started. I am obsessed with our topic for this week because truly this is something that I work a lot on with clients. This is something that everybody benefits from. This is something I spent a lot of time working on with myself that I still work on in coaching, but that I really put a lot of time and energy into when I first started learning human design. So I use human design as a modality in my coaching, along with many other modalities. But one of the things I love it for the most is how to make decisions. So this week's episode of the podcast, Love and Meaning, that was just on Monday, was called How to Make Decisions for Yourself. What a topic. Like, who doesn't need to know how to do that, right? So my favorite modality for really delving into how to make decisions for yourself is through human design, is through something called your authority. I am not going to dive deep into what everybody's authorities are in this Friday Night Live dive, because that is more of a teaching, and I want this to be more of a discussion. So feel free to drop your questions throughout the live tonight. Like if there's a decision you're having a hard time with, or if there's something that you didn't understand from the podcast episode, like go ahead and drop your questions and we can talk about it right here. I'd like for this to be more of an interactive space. But if you did want to dive deep into learning what your unique way of making decisions is, because there is a unique way that you make decisions, and it's in your human design chart. If you want to know more about that, this is a great thing to book a session for. And again, the link is in the show notes if you want to go ahead and get a reading. And also, it's another thing that we can even do in one-on-one coaching. If you want to book a single session of coaching, single sessions are available. And we can just talk about how to utilize your authority to make decisions. But what I want to talk about today on the live is factors, things that I want you to keep in mind when making decisions, things that I have learned through my own life experience and through various different teachings that I've come across that have been really integral for me in learning how to make decisions for myself. Because the thing is, most of us have not actually been taught how to do this. It's one of those things where you're like, why is this not taught in school? Like, why is this not a major aspect of children's curriculum? It isn't, you know? Hi, Aunt Val. Welcome. Let us know what you're celebrating. It just isn't, you know? We are actually most often taught to not rely upon ourselves as our greatest authority in life. It's just one of those unfortunate things. I think maybe one of the reasons is that those different aspects that, you know, those different arenas, governing arenas in our life that have raised us, it might not be in our best benefit to be making decisions for ourselves. I think they would much prefer to be able to tell us what to do. So this is like school. This is, you know, parents. This is religion. Like most of the time we're being told what to do, or we're very often being given a strong message of do right, not wrong, right from wrong. But depending on who is talking to you, depending on the situation, depending on so many things, right and wrong, nobody seemed to tell us when we were little was not cut and dry. And so then we grow into be adults, and making decisions is something that you have to do constantly, and you really don't know how. So it becomes an extremely anxiety inducing situation. It becomes a fear inducing situation, and it becomes something that we seem to kind of look to external factors to find the answer for. We also look heavily to logic. We look heavily to logicking. And the other thing that no one tells us, because I would say the closest place that I was ever taught accurately, maybe to start learning how to really make decisions for myself, was in university when I, you know, took certain different electives in psychology and stuff like that. But they all relied on logic, which is good to a certain degree when you're solving certain problems that have a cut and dry answer. But when it comes to making decisions about things that you desire, what you do with your life, who you're with in your life, what personal decisions, logicking doesn't get you there. It rarely gets you to the right answer, because the right answer is what makes you happy. The right answer is what makes you feel good, what leads to long-term contentment, what leads to your overarching goals in life. Like that cannot be logicked. And I love human design for this, because human design teaches you right off the bat that the place where your true wisdom comes from is your body, not your mind. So I'm going to go over some things that I think are really helpful and important when it comes to making decisions. And this is not just all human design, but human design will play a very helpful role. This is just applicable to anybody, I think, from whether you know human design or not, though I find human design to be a really, really helpful tool, if not the best tool that I have ever encountered when it comes to being able to rely upon yourself. Okay? So, nobody wants to let me know what they're celebrating this week? Am I the only person over here proud of themselves for working out all week? Let me know what it is that you're celebrating and say hi as you come in, okay? And ask questions. You can stop me at any point and ask questions and make comments and just interact in any way that feels good to you. Okay. How do we make decisions for ourselves? These are not in any particular order, except for this one, number one. The first thing that I wish I learned, I wish someone had taught me, is breathe. Just breathe. Take a deep breath. Let some air into the system. Calm ourselves. The thing is, most of the time, the way that we react to making decisions is as if they're life or death. If it is not an actual life or death situation, I want for you to take a step back. Ask yourself, why am I freaking out? Why does this have to involve so much anxiety? Why does this have to involve so much fear? It's really interesting that there's so much pressure put, right, on making decisions in our lives, but it's the thing that we most don't know how to really, really do. We don't know how to trust ourselves, right? The way that we trust ourselves is not by freaking ourselves out. No great answer ever comes from freaking yourself out. That puts a lot of pressure on you. So the first thing that I want you to do is to literally, is this an actual life or death situation? If it's not, laugh at yourself for a second and just calm and breathe and realize that we don't need to freak out our way through this. This is not how this is going to happen. Okay. And it's not your fault. It's truly not your fault. This is the way that we've been conditioned. Today, I'm celebrating a pending date. I have to put on my glasses because I cannot see. Today, I'm celebrating a pending date with my niece, and it will just be us. Yes, it will. And I'm also celebrating going on vacations in 2 weeks to my adoptive homeland. Yay! That's a double celebration. And I'm extra celebrating because it's me. Woohoo! I love that. I can't wait for our date. I love that. Okay, so we're breathing, first of all, okay? Sorry, look at my notes. Okay, so it is really interesting that we are taught to listen to all these other governing bodies, right? We're not taught that we can actually trust ourselves because we're innately, something's wrong with us, whatever it is, you have to listen to some other governing body that tells you what the right thing or the wrong thing is to do. And we're freaking out because we're trying to make sure that we don't make a mistake. We're trying to make sure that we do the right thing, right? But isn't it interesting that we're taught that we can't trust ourselves to make decisions, yet still, we are also pressured deeply in society to make decisions immediately. Do you notice that? We're taught to make this, that you're supposed to make a decision immediately. Where I love human design. In human design, most types need time. We are taught when you are in a reading, if I'm teaching you your design, if I'm teaching you your strategy, I'm teaching you your authority, most of us need to wait to get there. Most of us, most human beings need to wait. So we have been given these very conflicting ideas in society, and neither of them are correct. Number one, I'm telling you right now, the answer is within you. So you can trust yourself. Number two, it is okay to wait. So this is another aspect of removing the pressure from yourself. There are so many scenarios that come up in life where we don't even realize that we have the permission to wait. For example, if it's a work-related thing and you've been asked a question at work, right? Unless it's literally like the client needs you to blah, blah, blah. Those kind of decisions you can usually logic your way through. I'm talking about you're being asked a question about the role that you'd like to play, or a role that you'd like to take. You can say, thank you so much for that offer. I'm absolutely honored. And I'm going to take a few days to think about it. You can do that. A lot of times we feel like, okay. And then we just, vomit an answer out because if we really go in there, all of these different lack thinking thoughts come in. Like, if I don't answer now, I'm going to lose this opportunity. They'll think I'm an idiot if I can't make decisions right away. There's something wrong with me if I can't make decisions right away. They're going to know I'm incompetent if I can't make decisions right away. There are so many stories and lies and narratives that we've created around making decisions in life, when in reality, human beings need time. But we're never told this. You absolutely are not an idiot. You're not incompetent. It's none of these things. You just need to be able to tap into yourself to do that. And sometimes that requires time. So this goes back to us calming, breathing, taking a step back. Okay. I want you to reassure yourself that you can make the decision clearly, in a confidently, in good time. You're just going to give yourself that time. Okay. So the first thing all around this number one is removing this pressure, removing this fire underneath your butt that doesn't really need to be there, because it is not a life and death situation. You get to take your time and make this decision for yourself. Okay. Is this all making sense to everybody? I'm sure we've all felt that kind of pressure on ourselves. It can be as simple as, what are you going to eat for dinner? Or where do I go for vacation? Or, where am I taking that person on that date? Or it's going to be okay. We have to come out of that place, that conditioning that has been placed on us. Because really where a lot of this is coming from is this idea that I'm not allowed to make a mistake. I'm not allowed to make a mistake. I have to get it right. This is the place where most of this pressure is coming from. Here's the thing. In life, we make mistakes. And I'm not saying that you're going to make a mistake, but one of the first areas that I really delved into in my inner work, and one of the most profound lessons that my inner work taught me, is I'm going to be okay. I learned to become a solid landing place for myself where, let's just say I made a mistake. Guess what? I'll do something different. Oh, that didn't work out. Okay, I'll try this. Oh, well, I didn't really like that. Next time, I'll do this. This is actually what real life looks like. And even when you put all this stinking pressure on yourself, you can still make a decision that isn't the best decision for you. And you still find yourself in that place of needing to adjust. But instead, you beat yourself up all along that way, rather than just confidently being able to say, it's okay, because ultimately, I'm okay. Ultimately, I can take care of myself. Ultimately, there's a lesson to be learned. And that is the greatest gift in all of it. It's not about just getting it right. It's about learning what's right for us. So if we can remove all of that pressure, we realize that this is just a process of life where I make mistakes, I learn from my mistakes, or even if you were using the word mistake, I don't want you to associate it with failure. You haven't failed because you didn't make the right decision about what vacation you went on, or even if it's something about the right job to choose, or whatever it is. This is not a failure. This is a stepping stone that gets you to knowing yourself better. Sometimes, have you ever experienced this? Have you ever not felt like so confident because you logicked the bejesus out of your decision? You're like, nailed that. You like logic Tetris this decision. And then you made the decision and you hated it. I've done that. We've all been there. So was it the right decision, even though it was the right decision? No. Sometimes the right decision also is the wrong decision, so that you realize what the right decision is. Like, this is what it actually looks like lifing. Like, life is not this so neat and tidy and clean and structured and linear. It's not. This is what we create in fantasies. And so this is why I really want us to step out of this crisis mode. Let's stop attributing making a decision to a freaking crisis. It's just a part of life. And more than anything, it's a learning opportunity. It is a self-discovery process. It is a step on your path to figuring you and your beautiful life out. This is what the decisions are in our lives. They're actually privileges. The fact that we even have choices is a privilege. So I want us to start treating them in this way, where this is an opportunity for me to choose because I have options in my life. And no matter what decision I make, it's going to be okay because I know how to learn from the choices that I make. If you know how to learn, you can't get this wrong. Okay. I got disconnected for a short while. I really wish I could see. I got disconnected for a short while. I am celebrating a great weekend in advance. Started with dinner last night, a spa day today, and a wedding tomorrow, and a barbecue on Sunday. Look at you, get it? What a weekend. Woohoo! All right. Celebrating with you. What an amazing weekend ahead. Oh, I love it. You're going to have to tell us all about how much fun you had and tell us about that spa day. Okay, so that was number 1. Everybody with me? Is this making sense? This is why I put it first. Like, the first thing I want to do is like, let's just snap out of it for a minute and see decision making as what it is, which is a part of life. It is all about adulting. You do have the ability to make the decision. You don't need to pressure yourself. Most of us require time. There are 5 types in human design. Well, 4 of them. 2 of those types have a very similar programming, similar the same strategy, and they can have varying authorities though. So there are some similarities in that. But of all of those types, there's only one type that really makes decisions like this. So most of us are designed to wait. I want us to normalize this and let life. Okay. Number 2, which is not in order. So that was the only one that was like, I wanted that to be one because it really is like an important thing for us to understand is to like take that pressure out so that you can actually really get to the heart of the thing. All right. Okay. Number 2 is figure out your why. And when I say your why, I mean your ultimate why. Most of the time, the questions that we're asking ourselves are what and how. They don't actually freaking matter until you know your why. And I mean the big why. Okay? Let me demonstrate this in an example. So I'm going to use the example of myself in my job. So I am currently still working as an occupational therapist. I have a day job. I have a 9-to-5 job. And I've been working on building myself up into entrepreneurship. And I only recently really stepped into the identity of I am a coach who is running a coaching business. And all along my way there, and I've seen many people do this, in the beginning, I had this dissonance about not having enough time. How do you run a business? How am I supposed to run a business while I have to go to work and spend most of the hours of my day at my job and then do this business on the side? Like, how am I supposed to do that? That is a really difficult thing to do. I could very easily argue that, well, until I am not in my job anymore, I'm not doing this. I could have said that, and most people would logically say to me that, sure, that's absolutely correct. And I could delay things for however long that takes. Some people, that is the decision for themselves. There are some people who think the same thing, and so they quit their job. I'm quitting my job because I want to put my all into it. And so they quit their job and they go ahead and they just put all their time into their business, and that's how they get started. Some people work really well under pressure. Some people love, they really need to have everything really, really focused. That would be the right decision for them. For me, when I really looked into myself, what I realized is my big why for this business is my heart. This is a heart-centered business. I love inner work. I live and breathe inner work. I've actually been coaching my entire life, pretty much. I have been a guide always, and I have been providing coaching to those around me long before I realized that I wanted to be a coach. This is just what I do. It's who I am. And the business that I'm creating, I have a mission. I have a mission that has a lot to do with a self-fulfillment. Like, it feels so good to me to be able to create this with a certain amount of integrity, to be able to talk about the topics that mean something to me, and to be able to make real connections with people. I am a very no frills person, as you guys can see. Like, I'm quite casual. What you see is really what you get. Like, this is me. Like, this is it. This is the same me that you're going to hang out with in person, genuinely. And it's really important to me that I keep that all along the way in creating this business. And what I realized is, if I have the pressure of finance, like if I have the financial pressure in creating my business, like I need money to come in, a certain amount of money to come in, I don't feel free to flow in the way that I want to flow. I'm going to feel like I need clients, not the right clients to come to me. Not, are we an actual good match? Not, you hear the things that I'm talking about and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to work with her. It's like, I will be doing everything that I can to get anybody to work with me. And maybe I would even change the things that I want to talk about because they're more catchy and they might get a hold of people more. I wanted to make sure that what it is that I'm creating is in full alignment with my heart, not with me needing to make sure that there's money in my bank account to make myself feel comfortable. I realize that if I don't have the stability of those finances coming in, I will be in lack thinking. I will be in lack frequency, and that will be the frequency I'm creating my business. That doesn't work for me personally. So when I tapped into my ultimate why for my business, I knew the right thing for me was to keep my job. And I'm going to transition slowly out in a way that is comfortable for me. Does that make sense? Is that kind of like helping you to understand what I mean by your overarching why? It's, if someone asked the question, so if I'm in a coaching session and a client asks me, like, what am I supposed to do? Do I leave my job? I can't just say yes or no. It depends on that client. It depends on your situation. It depends on what's important to you. It depends on how you're driven. Like, it depends on you and what is important to you. Right? These are the kind of things that I want you to keep in mind. It's not that there's a right answer or simply a wrong answer. It has to do with really sussing out what is your ultimate why. And when we have our ultimate why, so when I figured out my ultimate why, so I figured out the way that I really wanted to be able to build into my business, then the what was answered. I'm keeping my job. And the how was also answered. I have this amount of time that I have to work on my business outside of my job. And so I make it work. I make it work. There is no point in sitting there and doing this back and forth thing with myself, which I did before. I was here. I was in this place before really coming to terms with all of this. I was in that place of, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. That doesn't make sense. There is no point of that. It's okay. So either give yourself more time. If that doesn't make sense to give yourself that more time, I'm wasting time with this. I don't have more time. It's better to say, okay, this is the time that I have. What can I do with it? How can I make that time work for me? How do I use that to the best of my ability? And I was able to answer those questions pretty easily. Pretty easily. Okay. So I want you to keep in mind looking bigger. Zoom out a little bit from your problem, and really make sure that you understand what is the larger motivation behind the decision that you're trying to make. Alrighty. Anything coming up for you guys? So I'll go on to the next one in the meantime, but drop your questions, your comments, anything. Let me know if this is not making sense to you too. Okay. Number 3. This is a little bit similar, or this kind of extends from it. And this is that the fact that you just need your next steps. Okay? You don't need to try to answer the whole overarching thing. If this is a decision that you're racking your brain over, I guarantee there's probably 5 more steps before getting there that you can answer in the meantime. We don't need to have the full picture right away from the beginning. Because the thing is, you actually don't know it. You don't even have access to it. You don't actually know where it is that you're meant to end up. Like, the universe is taking care of that, and the universe will show you. So sometimes we're trying to figure something out that is absolutely impossible to figure out. And all you need to figure out is what you do next. So sometimes it's like, the example that I used in the episode was like, if you're trying to be like, there's a change that I want in my job. I really want to make a change. I don't know what it is in my career. I really want to make a change. And so you could sit there and rack your brain about like, what change do I make? What job am I supposed to get? What field am I supposed to work in? What's the best field to work in? And you could even try to do things like, okay, let me look into what the most lucrative field that there is, or what's trending right now. Like, a lot of people go that route, and that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. They might get into that field or into that job and be miserable. It's possible. I don't know, but if you sit and try to figure out and logic out the answer, there are so many unknowns, right? But the thing is, if you can learn to just do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, the answers will come to you. That next step will bring the next step and the next step after that. So the example that I had used is when a client wanted to switch jobs and she had no idea what new job that she wanted to do was, or what change was. And the answer came in the most completely unpredictable way, in a way that, from a thing that she didn't even know existed. And it all started with an Instagram DM that she decided to respond to. She learned how to use her intuition. She learned how to use her authority to feel into, to be able to know that this was a DM she wanted to respond to. And the conversation led to an offer that led to this, that led to that, that led to that, led to. But there was no way of being able to predict that. Okay. So if she had been so busy trying to figure out what it is that she wanted to do just from here, she wouldn't have even been open to corresponding with someone. Sometimes the answer to your question is a conversation that you have over drinks. Sometimes the answer to the thing is you went out for a run and you ran to a lake, and when you got down to the lake, you looked out at the view and you saw a sign on an airplane, like, or those signs from, like, it could be the most random thing. Like, you don't actually know where the answer or the next nudge is coming. And so it's really important that we just try to get to the next step. And this is a place where I find human design to be really, really, really helpful, especially seeing as the majority of people are generator types. And as a generator type, you have something called a sacral. And with a sacral, it means that you respond to life in basically ahas or ahs, in yeses and nos. Something is presented to you and you will feel inclined towards it or not. And your strategy is to respond. Your strategy is not to think of things out of nowhere. There's only one type that initiates, and that's a manifester. All the rest of us are not meant to initiate. We need to interact with life or with other people to fulfill our destinies. And most of us have been taught this idea of sitting at home and just trying to figure things out from our logic and from our knowing, rather than giving ourselves an opportunity to respond to things, be exposed to things, to interact with people. So I want you to kind of step away from this very rigid way of approaching decision making and open yourself up to allowing the universe to give you the next sign, to give you that next nudge. I'm celebrating an exciting weekend coming up. Oh, that already came in. Okay. That was so weird. That comment came in twice. All right. Is this making sense, everyone? And this really goes back to this idea of remembering that you're going to be okay. This goes back to this idea of, underneath this, the inner work that we actually have to do is to learn to be able to hold ourselves in the unknown. It's okay that you don't have the answer right now. It's coming. And in holding ourselves in that unknown and knowing that you're going to be okay no matter what, because you really can't fail, because no matter what decision you make, you're going to learn from it. And then learning what your personal authority is so that you know how to recognize the signs that are coming to you. You can't get this wrong. You can't ultimately get this wrong. So I have this example of how you don't really know what's coming next. And it's a very silly example, but this happened to me last Saturday. Okay. I posted a story on my Instagram about it. And last Saturday, I woke up kind of late. And so I was running behind for work. So I had to run for my bus in the morning. And the bus driver was so kind. She saw me on the street and pulled over and just picked me up before the stop. So I had run for my first bus to get to work. Okay. So I get into the city. How I get to work is 2 buses, a long bus ride and a short bus ride. The second bus ride is just a short bus ride. And I'm walking to my next bus stop and I see the bus coming, right? And I instantaneously got this hit. So my authority in human design is splenic, which means that I get these instant knowings out of nowhere. They come, they say what they have to say, and they leave. And I just got the hit, run for the bus. And I had the audacity to have the internal dialogue with myself that went like this: I have already run for the day. I'm not running. It's hot. I'm not doing this. I'm not running anymore. 5 seconds later, I was like, Chrystelle, you know that was a splenic hit. You know that you don't need to know the why. You know that you don't know what the reason is, but you know how to trust your intuition. The spleen center where my authority comes is an intuition center. You just listen. We don't question it. Fine. So I run. I ran just in enough time to have the bus pull away right in front of my face. Like, literally, if I had arrived 5 seconds later, I'd be on that bus. I would be on that bus because he would see me there and open the door. It just pulls off right in front of me. So the splenic kit was just on time. I'm like, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. This bus comes every 3 minutes. Well, 20 minutes later, the bus arrived for my 10-minute bus ride. And I was like, okay, so I know exactly why I was supposed to run for that bus. This is like, this is like a small decision. It's not a big deal, but it's just a perfect representation of how we don't know, like, you don't know the next step. Like, I don't know the part that's coming after that. All I need to know is how to listen to that first nudge. That nudge told me to get my butt on that bus for some reason. And it was right. And I didn't listen. And I ended up being late. Not a big deal, but not ideal. And it could have been a different way. Lesson learned. I have taken note of every single time I have not listened to my splenic authority. And every single time it is demonstrated to me at some point in the future why I was supposed to listen to that. And like I was saying earlier, this doesn't mean that the world, the world is ending. It's over. More opportunities are coming. But it has proven to me enough to know that your authority knows exactly what it's talking about. So there are multiple different types of authorities. And this is the next pointer that I want to share with you for today. And that it's the answer, what you're actually looking for, that intuition that you want to tap into, the wisdom that you want to tap into is in your body. Okay? We all have wisdom in our body, and this was bestowed upon us at birth. You were born with it. And then our conditioning is what taught us. School taught us. Our parents and pressure and being right and being the best and doing the right thing and blah, 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 and being a good girl and being a good boy and the rules and all of this stuff has taught us, don't trust this, trust that. And then when that is unclear, freak out about it because you need to figure out from some external factor what you're supposed to do. This is what we're taught. Human design teaches you to unlearn that and learn to go within yourself for that wisdom. And it does work very much like what I was just talking about. So for me, for some of us, your intuition, the way that it works is through these kind of out of nowhere knowings. You will just get this kind of nudge. Okay. For example, my mom has the same design as me. She also gets these kind of inner knowings. It can be so scary. So I'm just using my authority, for example. I'll tell you, like, I'm not going to go deep into what the authorities are, but I'll tell you a little bit about like how the different ways this could show up. But how scary it was for me when I was first learning this to trust this thing that I had no proof of. It didn't make sense. Like, that's how deeply ingrained it is within me that I need to make a decision based off of proof, based off of logic. And I have a plethora of examples for the first 30 years of my life of attempting genuinely with my whole heart to make decisions logically, and they just blew up in my face. I have logically tried to decide, jobs, where to go, people to be with, and they weren't correct for me. They gave me great lessons that brought me here, and I'm so grateful for them. But that wisdom inside of me was there the whole time. I can distinctly remember. I even remember a big one that I remember is when I used to write tests. What is it called? Multiple choice tests in school. And whenever I didn't know the answer, oftentimes I had this kind of like nudge, this kind of like C, like it would be like circle C. And I'd be like, oh, circle C. And then immediately my logic would come in and it's like, wait, no, read over those answers. Okay. And I would like really try to logic my way through the answer that I didn't know. Like I didn't know it, but I was like, that doesn't make sense. It couldn't possibly be this random letter that came out of nowhere, for no reason. Why? I couldn't understand why it was that one. And so I'll end up switching it. Every single time it was the first one. So one of the lessons that I taught myself about testing, I didn't realize I had a spleenic authority at this point, but I had this little motto to myself that it's always the first answer. It's always the first answer you think it is. The whole time that was my spleen. The whole time that was my authority. The whole time that was my body wisdom answering the question for me. Because the thing is, the knowledge was inside of me. I just didn't remember it. I don't have a very good memory, but a lot of times the information is somewhere in there. And my spleen was giving it to me. And I didn't realize that's what was happening. And so I came up with this random teaching for myself for taking tests, is that the first answer you think it is always the right answer. Lo and behold, I'm a splenic authority. Fascinating. I just find that fascinating. So there are various different ways, okay? So it is really important for you to tap into your way. Another way that people learn is through their emotions. Okay, my husband has an emotional authority. It is very different when you have an emotional authority. 50% of the population has emotional authority. Half of people have an emotional authority. So the likeliness of me speaking to someone with an emotional authority right now is high. Also that you are a sacral, meaning a generator, a generator or a manifesting generator is high. When you have an emotional authority, the answer to your questions has to come over time. When you force yourself to answer or to decide, when you are going through various emotions, when you have an emotional authority, you have something called emotional waves, which means that you have these waves of emotions that come over you. And while you're in that wave of emotion, you can't make a decision that will be consistent for you, because the decision is coming from the emotion, if that makes sense. So let's say that you're on a high and someone's like, hey, do you want to come out with me next Tuesday? And you're feeling really good and you're feeling super social and you're like, yeah, I'll be there. Let next Tuesday roll around and you're like, I don't want to go anywhere. Why did I say yes to this person? Classic emotional authority stuff going on right there. When you're in that emotion, you really want to go with that vibe because the vibe's taking you. It's the same thing when you're in a low. You might be knowing everything, naying everything, and that's not actually your true answer. It's just the wave that you're in. So emotional authorities, it is important for you to let your emotional waves run their course and be in a neutral place when you make a decision. It's not that your emotions are lying to you, but the thing, and this is why you need time, is that a piece of your emotion, a piece of your answer is delivered to you in the emotional wave. And another piece is answered to you in this other emotional wave. Okay? So I'll give you an example. My husband, who is an emotional authority, we visited Atlanta recently to scout out, places that we might want to move. And he, in his human design, his environment is markets. He is a city person. He likes sound, movement, people, voices. That's the kind of energy. My environment is mountains. I much prefer, especially at this point in my life, I get quite drained from this environment. For example, like New York. I much prefer like spaciousness, a lot of perspective, and even in particular, I love the sound of like wind hitting leaves. Like I need to feel spaciousness. And so we want to find somewhere in between both of our needs, right? And so we visited Atlanta, and while we're in Atlanta, actually before we get there, He's so excited, okay, to pick up our rental car. We live in New York City. It's a walking city. You don't need a car here. And he's so excited to get a rental car. He's going to get a sports car and he's looking forward to it. He loves to drive. He's telling me like a week in advance every day how much he loves to drive. He loves to drive. He can't wait to drive. He can't wait to drive. We drive around, he's loving Atlanta. We both really like it. It has a little bit of what we both desire. He likes it hot. It's hot there. We like it. We're enjoying it. You know what I mean? In conclusion, we're like, this is looking pretty good. We get back, and a week later, he's like, I'm back in the city and I really like the city. And, this driving thing just isn't for me. Like, it's just not for me. I can't remember his exact words, but he used strong language. Something like, this driving stuff is just not for me at all. Okay. If I didn't understand human design, I'd be like, are you mental? I was there a week ago, right? Like, when you got super excited about driving the car, like, I was there. He's experiencing his emotional waves. And in the wave that he was in, it was like, let's go, car, He does like driving. And then when he was in the wave that he's in, where it's like, I really like busy. I really want a city. I really want things compact. I really want things close knit. And he's like, I don't like driving at all. He was in that wave. I understand him. I understand how emotional waves work. And he's really learning himself too. So we're able to laugh about this because I literally said to him in a moment, I said, that's so funny. I just remember somebody last week being super excited about being able to drive and going on and on about it, And so what the thing is, though, is it's not nonsense. He's not talking crap. He does like to drive. What this second emotional wave was telling him, it was actually anxiety. So what he was experiencing anxiety about being in a situation where he would have to drive or that he wouldn't have access to the hustle and bustle that he actually really desires. So I understand what he's experiencing. And so I'm able to know that what he's really expressing is it's very important for him to have close proximity to the option to not drive and close proximity to a kind of hustle and bustle. He needs proximity, not that he's opposed to Atlanta, not that he's opposed to moving. That's not actually what he was saying. In his emotional waves, it was giving him the pieces of information that over time will come together to create a solid answer. And those pieces of information where he really actually does enjoy being in nature. He even said when we were in Atlanta, I didn't realize how much I really like being around the green. Atlanta's very green, guys. Oh my gosh. It's called a city in a forest because it's just green everywhere. It's like I didn't realize how nice that is. You know what I mean? That was a piece. I like the green. I like the spaciousness. I like that. I like to drive. Another piece, I need to be around action. I need to be around activity. I need to not have to drive, but I do quite enjoy it. That was the other piece of the next wave. Is this making sense? So in learning that he has an emotional authority, he takes the pieces of wisdom from each emotional wave and collectively that's how he can make the decision. Emotional authority can be the most complex one for people, but I think that story gave you a good example of how it works. Number one, you need to give yourself time. Okay. And I really wanted to describe that one for people because really 50% of people have an emotional authority. So it is important for you to know that, you're not crazy. You're not incapable of making a decision. So you're not a flake. You're not a flake. You just haven't been taught that you were supposed to make decisions over time and that there's a little piece of your truth. You have a big truth. And your emotional waves give you a little piece of your truth along the way. Eventually, you will reach a neutral state where you'll realize that the conclusion that you've come to is consistent throughout the moods. It's consistent. And that's your answer. Okay? Some of the other, let me know if this is making sense to you or if you have questions or if that was confusing or anything. Some of the other authorities that I can teach you about if you'd like to go ahead and get a reading are, for example, there's a sounding board authority. Some people, you need to speak it out loud. You are the people who need to tell a friend, for example, like, hey, I want to talk to you about something. I don't actually need your advice. I just want to be heard, you know? You can even do it with yourself. You don't have to do it with a person, but sometimes people really like to do it with a person. And it's actually in hearing yourself speak that you hear your truth. You have to speak your way through it. Okay? For some other folks, the way that you make decisions is environmental. You actually need to move into different spaces and feel into your body for your truth. Feel into your body for your truth. These are people that don't have a defined G center. You really are affected by, you become the environment that you're in, you know? So that is where a lot of wisdom comes to you, is through feeling it. So if it's looking for a job, oftentimes you need to actually go to the place where that job is, even scout out the building. If it's about a place to move, you want to go. Like, you're not going to be able to make that decision until you're there in that space and you feel it. Who tells people these things, right? Like, we don't really know these things. But for some of us, this is the way that we need to make decisions. For a sacral, this is the one that I had mentioned. You make decisions through a literal gut feeling. The term gut feeling came from Generator's sacral authority. That aspect, that center in you, that energy center in you, it's like it loves yes and no's. It really responds in the moment. So this is the one decision maker that is able to really make decisions in the moment. But they're yes and no answers. They're like, do you like it? Uh-huh or uh-uh. This is the way that you'll actually feel it in your body. My best friend is a really good example of this. She has a sacral authority, and she knew this to be true. Like, when I explained it to her, I've known her to be like this our whole lives. Like, a lot of people with a sacral authority, like, they'll actually move without even saying anything. Sometimes you don't even hear their or they'll actually just move their body. So for example, if I say like, hey Tina, do you want to go for a walk? She'll just get up and go get her jacket. Just be walking to the door. Before her brain even realizes she's moving. That's a sacral authority for you. You'll actually have movement. I see my coworker has a sacral authority. When something is an for her, she literally moves forward. When it's an she literally moves back. She literally her body actually repels from things. And she's doing this all the time, unconsciously. They make a lot of sounds like, mm-hmm. Like, this is the kind of stuff. Like, if you might be hearing me say this and be like, oh my gosh, that's me. That is your wisdom. It didn't even get a chance to reach your brain. It didn't get a chance to reach your logic. Many times people with a sacral authority have a gut level response and then are just like, but that's not right. That's not what I'm supposed to do. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't matter. What's right for you, you're going to feel it in your body. So those are just some of the examples of the various ways that we are all designed to make decisions. But every single one of us, it's in your body. It's not in logicking. If it was all about logic, wouldn't we all be making the same decisions? Wouldn't the right decision be the right decision for everybody? And we know that's not the case. It can't be as simple as I get to just logic my way through it. So my major takeaway from this teaching is you have to learn you. You need to learn how to communicate with that inner wisdom inside of you that is telling you to feel your way through it. You need to not rush yourself. You need to remove the pressure. If there literally is a life or death situation, this is a completely different thing. And by all means, go ahead and logic your way through it. We're just doing our best. But most of the time, these are just everyday life things that we feel so much pressure around making a decision over. And we're coming from a place of, what should I do? What am I supposed to do? What's the right thing to do? How do I not make a mistake? How do I make sure I get it right? What's correct? And these are all the wrong questions. They're all the wrong questions. So I hope that was not too confusing and it didn't add more difficulty to making decisions. No, I don't think it did. And I completely understand if this seems like overwhelming or confusing all at once. It's something that takes practice, but it is actually the most reliable thing in the world. As I told you, like, I still have moments I'm not listening to my spleen, but I know it happened. I know that I didn't listen to the nudge. And I no longer do this racking of my brain or feel any sort of pressure around what does someone else or what is the external right thing for me to do, because I'm looking to be happy for myself. You are really the person, the only judge of the right and wrong ultimately, because if it's a decision that you make and it makes you miserable, that can't possibly be the right decision, right? So, of course, this is a learning to tap into yourself, learning to tap into your own wisdom. If you would like a human design reading to learn what your authority is, which is the way you make decisions, and it's a way that's in your body, I would love to do a reading with you, and the link is in the show notes. This is also, again, something that I can go through with you in a coaching session to really kind of practice how you get to know this thing, ways to get to know this. One of the things, for example, is that I teach people with sacrals, with a sacral authority, or even, any generator type with a sacral, is to start to ask yourself yes and no questions. If you want to get to your truth, start asking yourself yes and no questions. Let's move away from what's the right thing to do. One way to stifle a sacral is this open-ended question. You can't or what's the right thing to do? What's the job I'm supposed to have? No. It's like, do I like this? Do I like that? Does that feel good? Does that sound good? This or that? Those kind of questions. So these are the different practices that you can get into. Everyone's phone has voice notes now. If you're a sounding board person, start to use your voice notes. Start to talk out loud to yourself. Start to give yourself an opportunity to hear the answers. There's different tips and tricks. Start recording the times when you felt something that you couldn't explain. Write it down. You don't have to tell anybody. Just write it down. You had a nudge for something. If you're a person and you feel like you had a nudge for something and you didn't follow through, that's okay. Just write it down and see how things play out. And you'll start to see the wisdom over time that your body was telling you that you could not explain. Once you gain that trust with yourself, I promise you there's no going back. And you feel like the most powerful thing on the planet. So if that's something that you want to work on, it is so much fun for me, helping people to tap into their authority. So you can go ahead and book a one-on-one session. The link is in my show notes. And reminder that the preliminary coaching with Cree debut pricing packages, the sale price packages, coaching packages are coming to a close on Tuesday. So you have a few more days. And then after that, the rates will be going back to the full rate. I hope that this was enjoyable. I hope that you understood this. Please feel free to write me any question, and I'll be happy to answer. Every time I question and don't listen to that inner voice, I miss the moment. You nailed it. You nailed it. And you have a splenic authority. And so it's very similar to me. So the splenic authority, stuck in my hair. The splenic authority is one of those authorities that is meant to be listened to in the moment. The thing that's different from us and a sacral authority is that we can't demand it by a question. Once the splenic hit comes, the knowing, it might be so random. Sometimes it's like, call so-and-so. I have had the most random nudges to call someone. And then I'll call them and it's like, they had the worst day ever and they just needed someone to talk to. Or it will always be something, like there's something, you know what I mean? But the thing is like, after that nudge to call, it goes away. It doesn't just keep haunting me. That's how the splenic authority works. So it's like a whisper that comes to us and then it passes. So yes, it does feel like you miss the moment. But don't worry, though it's not on demand, another splenic hit will come. Another splenic hit will come. And when it's something that's really, like, it's not a time sensitive thing, like for example, catch the bus, that was time sensitive. Call the friend, that was time sensitive. When it's something that is a bigger thing, like for example, I have an offer that I'm building. The splenic hit for that has been coming at me for months. And it's one that I've been really putting off, but I'm aware of it, but it's been showing up for months. So it will come back. There's nothing to worry about. Like, you will have the next splenic hit come. And the other thing about the splenic hit that might be helpful for you to know is that it always comes with fear. The spleen center, so all the different centers, the sacral center, the G center, the head center, the throat center, all the centers have different elements to it. The spleen center is a fear center as well. It's an intuition and fear center. It's a primal center. It's one of the oldest centers in the body, like our ancestor, Neanderthals. Like these are one of the first centers to be created in the body. It's a very fear-based center. So it will come with fear often. That's just part of how it works. And so sometimes we get afraid of our hit. It makes us feel like afraid to do it. But that's part of the process that I will help you with, like when you're learning that you're a splenic authority, is that you move with fear. We learn to move with fear because it's part of it. It almost feels like life or death, but it's not. It's just the knowingness of how your body is communicating with you. So that was a really good insight, Mom, because it's true. It is quiet and it disappears, but another hit is coming. You don't ever think like you have fully missed the boat. Another opportunity is coming. And that goes back to the first thing that I was mentioning. It's that this is life. Like, making mistakes is part of the process, and you learn from each time. If I didn't have so many examples of not listening and what it meant, like seeing the outcome, I wouldn't be so sure to not question it anymore. You know what I mean? So all of it is still leading to your greater wisdom. The entire process all along the way is leading to your greater wisdom. I hope that was enjoyable for everyone. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. We definitely went over the hour. This is a big topic. And again, please, if you have things come up over the next week while you're pondering this, or whenever you're listening to this, for those who catch this on the replay, write your questions into the chat and I will answer them. If something comes up, like a repeated question comes up, I will happily record a video that answers it. And again, go ahead, book a reading, go ahead, book a coaching session, and we can dive into how this will work for you specifically, like how to use your authority. And if you're really struggling with a certain decision, how we can break it down for you, tools that you can use to get yourself there, how we can step back and see like the lack thinking that you probably have put into and the pressure that you've put there, how to allow the universe to show you signs, to show you nudges. I'm more than happy to help you through that. I hope that everyone has a fabulous weekend. I'm sending you so much love. Good night. Bye.